members of the Royal Munster Police Service, 10 members of the Kirk Corps, and a small contingent of officials here at Salem Park. Last year again, it was myself and Major Joseph Gabriel Lynch who was able to bring you some commentaries from the pavilion. Now we are in the commentary booth. Back in 2020, there was no parade. Now, why are we here? Her Majesty the Queen has become the first British monarch to celebrate a Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years of service to the people of the United Kingdom, the realms, and the Commonwealth. And she's a highly respected and recognized person throughout the globe. Her Majesty became Queen on the 6th of February 1952 on the passing of her father, King George. The formal enthronement or coronation took place on the 2nd of June 1953 at Westminster Abbey. Her Majesty's 70 years of reign is another milestone that is worth celebrating in some form, which we are doing here over the long 5-day weekend, as we call it. Her Excellency's reign has seen her travel to more widely than any other monarch, really, undertaking 260 official visits overseas, including nearly 100 state visits. She has been the UK's foremost diplomat, affirming old relationships and building new connections. No one has done more to strengthen the bonds of friendship, understanding the respect between the UK and the rest of the world.
Okay, so let's just invite our listeners to join us on live stream, liveislandevents.com, and of course we have Major Joseph Lynch and of course Captain Peter W.A. White.
Thank you very much. Back to you. So Major Lynch, over to you as we see the troops coming in. You may wish to speak to who we see now getting on to the park.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Montserrat. We are here at Salem Park. We're looking over the Garibaldi Hills with a beautifully green in spite of the long drought we have had. We had some rain recently, but I'm not sure if this was responsible for how green the hills are looking at this point in time. The troops are now entering the park. You have led by the Royal Antigua Service Police Band, followed by the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, then Royal Montserrat Police Service, then you have the Colour Guards.
Yes, that's correct. Colour Guards.
The Colour Guards.
And the Defence Force, Antigua Defence Force in white.
And the Antigua Defence Force in white, followed by the Montserrat Defence Force School Cadet Corps.
Yes, indeed.
Already in the park, a line are the Girl Guides, Brownies, Fire and
Rescue, yes.
Fire and Rescue.
Prison Service.
And the Prison Service.
Along with the Pathfinders. Yes, so while we're not saying we are fully back to what we are accustomed to, really, it's work in progress. Before the crisis, or the pandemic, I should say, we would have had more of the youth organizations on parade, the Boys Brigade, the Girls Brigade, and the Red Cross First Aiders, and so on. But notwithstanding that, we are thankful that we are making some progress. We also not seeing here today the usual unit from the St. Kitts Defence Force. And the only reason for that is because St. Kitts is currently preparing for general election, and it's not appropriate to deploy troops overseas during that period. They, of course, are not, the troops, as I know personally, were really looking forward to coming to Montserrat to be part of this. We pride ourselves on our assistance, our neighborly assistance given to us by Antigua and St. Kitts in times like these, and we too try our best to give assistance, where necessary, when we can, in whatever form it may be. However, today it's the Queen's birthday Platinum Jubilee Parade. Right. So this morning, the parade itself will be taken by Captain Colin Fergus, ED CCM, and his assistant, Parade 2IC, will be Captain Glenroy Foster. And the unit officers for this morning, we have Lieutenant Darrow. He is the officer going to be in charge of the Defense Force unit. We have Second Lieutenant Sharissa Abel from the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force. So that's a female leading the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force unit. We have Inspector Acting Matanaya Antoine from the Royal Montserrat Police Service leading the police unit. And Cadet CSM, Warrant Officer 2 Darius Lewis will be leading the cadet unit this morning. Our main man, as we say on parade, the RSM W01 Barry Carlisle Williams. He was confirmed recently to that rank of Warrant Officer Class 1. And we'll speak about that. There's some other promotions that took place recently, and we'll speak to that later at an opportune time. So, this year I was able to look at the rehearsal, and we are not having a precision drill as planned. I don't want to jump the gun to get to that, but I just want to explain the flag party that is on parade this morning. And so, the feature this morning will be the trooping of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force flag, the Royal Montserrat Police Service flag, and the Montserrat Secondary School Cadet Corps flag. That is the feature for today. I will speak to it in more detail and when we get to that point. So here we are. The troops are on what we call the baseline. And they're getting themselves organized, dressed, as we say, making sure that they're straight. They do all these things before the dignitaries arrive. In this case, the dignitaries would be the Honorable Premier and Her Excellency, the Governor. So, if you're looking at the park with me, for those who are watching us online, you will see clearly it's a much larger grouping than last year. And for that, we are grateful, and we hope that in the coming years, we get to see more and more youth organizations participate in this parade. Back to you, Major Lynch. In your many years of service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, we had our own music.
That is correct. I mean, probably, undoubtedly, one of the best in the Leeward Islands at the time.
Yes, I see a plaque.
Actually,
in Barbados.
Yeah, we visited Barbados in 1965. And
yes.
funnily enough, at that time, Barbados only had a drum corps. Mm-hmm. So they were amazed that a little island of Montserrat were able to produce such musicians of such caliber. But then again, we had the good fortune of having the music director then was none other than, he was first Captain Vincent Brown,
right.
who is an accomplished musician, mm-hmm. and therefore we were able to produce that kind of band. We actually played from Montserrat to Barbados on HMS Relentless. That's the ship that takes us to Barbados in 1965.
Okay, interesting. Right. And so, just like the volcanic crisis and the migration of persons from Montserrat, one of the institutions that suffered greatly from that migration was the Defence Force Band. The Defence Force, as you know, before the volcano, had a role up to, I think we were given permission to go up to 98, 99 or something like that. And that included the band at the time. Of course, since the volcanic crisis and the migration, the force has now been reduced to less than 50. And they're all serving officers. And what really perished was the music unit. We do have a few persons who play drums, and where necessary for small events, they do have a drum corps. 2 years ago, well, just before the start of the COVID pandemic, we got some funding, and the Defence Force started their music unit again. I think they were styling it as a community band, and they were started the training in the center in Davy Hill. But with the advent of COVID, that had to pause, and I think the instruments are somewhere locked away. So we are benefiting from our regional colleagues again today, with music provided by the Royal Antigua and Barbuda Police Service Band. And we would have heard them playing for the march on. They are presently doing what we call dressing, getting all their things together. And if you're watching, you probably will be just in time to see a little bit of what we call preamble before formal arrival. We see the Parade 2IC has now taken over from the Sergeant Major, and that's Captain Glenroy Foster. Coming up next, it will be the instructions for the officers, that is the platoon units, the head of the platoon units, to take their post. And that itself would be something to see. We try to come up with anything that could help entertain the people who are watching or here present by adding a little bit here, there, and everywhere. And that is something you'll get a chance to see as we get going. Mindful of the time. So, the drums are beating and the officers or the unit commanders now are marching on to take up their post. I mentioned to you before that in front you will see a Lieutenant Darrow, he's leading the Defense Force unit. Inspector Matanaya Antoine is leading the police unit. And Second Lieutenant Sharissa Abel from the Antigua Barbuda Defense Force, leading that unit. And Cadet CSM W2 Darius Darrow is leading the cadet unit. So and then we have an inspector, named just evade me at this time, who also is the person in charge of Antigua Police Band Inspector in charge of that unit. Right. So the officers are now center of the parade, just in front of the DS, and without giving verbal orders being given, they are now drawing their swords, preparing to march on. Something different that we see, as I said, from what is norm, but we come up with ways to make this interesting and make this a unique one for the Platinum occasion, James.
Indeed.
Right. So we're here at, as I said, Salem Park, and which has been the site of the parade for many years since we have been on the site. But previously, we have had parades taking place at other places on Montserrat. And I'll go back to you, Major, in particular about Sturge Park. Tell us, you have commanded many parades at Sturge Park. Tell us something about your time there.
Well, you have to start at the beginning. Sturge Park, actually, the pavilion for Sturge Park was completed in 1953, the same year with Coronation. And incidentally, it was the last time that the Montserrat cricket team won the Leeward Islands Challenger.
Okay.
The guys,
All in, twice.
the guys argued that no team, not even the MCC, would be able to beat them on Sturge Park that particular year because the pavilion was open for the first time.
Okay.
Right, but we have many parades there. Like I said, my first parade wasn't really at Sturge Park. My first parade was the visit of the Princess Royal in 1960, February 1960, 23rd of February to be exact, which was my first parade that I attended after basic training. And then as the year go by, we had several. Most of our parades were held at the Sturge Park.
Oh, okay. So, and then of course with the relocation,
Officers! And warrant officer!
coming over on this side under your management, especially the Defense Force, you have had parades at the Braids Primary School grounds for 1 or 2 years, the Little Bay Park, and even at the Gerald's playing field before it was converted into the airport. And then we moved on to here now to Salem Park. On the field, the officers has now, the parade commander himself has taken over, and the officers now are aligning themselves with the respective unit. And you'll see again a bit of a preamble, where the officers will slow march to take up their position in front of their respective units. Right. So this is again, an effort to do things to entertain those who are here while we wait for the official dignitaries to arrive at their appointed time. We give commendation to our colleagues, the Antigua Police Band. They would have practiced all of this before they came on island. They only came on island 2 days ago, yes. Wednesday. So when I came Wednesday afternoon to see the practice, they were immaculate.
Yeah, I sense that they were
Yes.
in preparation for a while, anticipating coming over to Montserrat. So, it all augurs well for the occasion.
Yes, and of course, having a parade without music is not.
No, you would cut it.
Yeah, it wouldn't cut
The
it,
flag.
as we would say. All right? All right. So the unit commanders have now taken up their position in front of the respective unit. Now, we'll see the flag unit itself now taking up its rightful place on the parade grounds. The unit flags, on this occasion, the unit flags will not be directly in front of each unit. It will be, have a strategic spot on the ground, and you'll see the reason for that as the parade goes on. The flags are only for the Montserrat armed units, so we do not have a standard from the Antigua Defense Force at this time. Right? Maybe when we expand it again, we may decide to do that once formal permission is given that they can come and fly their flag here. Things will expand in the future.
I note that you mentioned earlier that there would not be a precision drill of sorts.
Right.
Why so?
Well, it's timing. You remember there was no formal permission given for this event in terms of preparing and practice until in May.
Okay.
Right? And then to make matters, or to complicate matters more, the parade itself is brought forward 2 weeks ahead of what we're accustomed to.
Indeed,
the parade is normally centered around the second Saturday in June. And for Montserrat purposes, since 2015, we got the order that changed it to the Monday after.
So
timing was an issue, yes. And that is, is always a very important factor when deciding these things. So, to do a precision drill, you will need some time to practice.
Take lots and lots of practice. The first precision drill was actually produced by myself and directed by myself as Company Sergeant Major at the time in 1977 on the occasion of Her Majesty's Silver Jubilee.
Okay, so we now formally see the vehicle carrying the Honorable Premier enter the park with his outrider coming around. So pretty soon we will hear a recognition from the band where they will play what we call an on-site greeting, a fanfare for the arrival of the Premier, and then that is still different from when he takes the DS. So, Honorable Premier Farrell, vehicle is now coming up to its rightful place, which is between the Commissioner of Police and Colonel Ryan, the commanding officer of the Royal Montserrat Defense Force. The troops are still standing at ease. They will be brought to attention when the Premier comes out and is making his way to the DS. The ADC to the Honorable Premier today is the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Charles Thompson. And he will be the one guiding the Premier directly as to where to go, what to do, and what is expected of him. The officials, one of the ushers will now escort Mrs. Farrell to her seat under the canopy that's provided for that purpose. And the Honorable Premier is now making his way to the dais to be formally greeted. And in doing so, the Montserrat flag will be unfurled to mark his presence here today. So they're now walking past the canopy with all the other dignitaries are seated. And on the parade grounds today, we actually have one of the beacons. I assume at some point, that was last night, at some point it will be lit, yes. And we also have the poster, platinum poster. So, the Premier now steps on the dais and we await the playing of the Montserrat territorial song.
Treason!
the territorial song being played for the arrival of the Honorable Premier. And when he steps on the dais, the Montserrat flag was unfurled. So the troops are now shouldering arms and ordering arms. And the Premier will now, with the guidance of his ADC, take up his seat, take position under the canopy for the seat provided for him. And pretty much on time, we now see the outrider leading the arrival of Her Excellency the Governor is now turning on to the park here at Salem. And the band is now preparing to greet her with a fanfare. One announcement that Her Majesty Loyal Representative on Montserrat, Governor Sarah Tucker, is now on site. She is now escorted by the outrider and will be coming to take right next to the commanding officer of the Defense Force and the Commissioner of Police, who will escort her to the dais. There are two things to note. With her arrival, we heard the fanfare from the band, but for those who are looking, you will see that one of the beacons, which was at Little Bay last evening, is now formally lit and will remain lit on the park throughout the presence of the governor here as part of the Platinum Jubilee process. So Her Excellency this morning, the ADC assigned to her is Officer in Training, or we say Officer Cadet, Carmen Sita Jubilee. The governor is a female, and once it's a female, we will normally incorporate a female properly trained to be her ADC. So,
yeah. So Governor Her Excellency Sarah Tucker.
Yes.
You know, just for
yes, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. Yes. So, and she is under the guidance of her ADC, who will now escort her to the dais. So the parade is standing at attention, and when Her Excellency stands on the dais, the Union Jack will then be unfurled. Right. So this is now the what we'll say the formal start of the parade with the arrival of the governor. Everyone on parade looking smart this morning, notwithstanding the sun at this time of the year. I have every confidence that everyone on parade will brave it. The parade commander has instructed the parade to shoulder arms in preparation for Her Excellency to stand on the dais. And there she goes.
Hey! General salute! Present arms! Hey! Shoulder arms!
Right, so the formal present recognition of the governor was done with the playing of the first 6 bars of the national anthem and the Union Jack being unfurled. Captain Howard T. Fergus is now approaching Her Excellency the Governor to report to her, to tell her about the troops and to invite her to inspect the parade. Let's see if we could pick him up from this point.
Morning, Your Excellency. On parade this morning, one contingent from the Royal Montserrat Defense Force, one contingent from the Royal Montserrat Police Service, one contingent from the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, one contingent from the Montserrat Cadet Corps, one contingent from the Montreal Fire and Rescue Service, one contingent from Her Majesty's Prison Service, representatives from the Girl Guide movement, representatives from the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders, all accompanied by the Royal Antigua and Barbuda Police Force Pack, awaiting your inspection, ma'am.
So that's the formal report to Her Excellency the Governor, and I'm not too sure if they were going to invite the Premier to join them, but normally it's at her prerogative. So I think they're getting themselves together. Yes, Her Excellency is now extending an invitation to the Premier to come along with her as part of the inspection. And there goes the band striking up a few tunes. So back to you, my good brother Major Joseph Gabriel Lynch. You have commanded this parade many, many years before my time. Yes, so tell us some of the intricacies of having to remember everything to report and, you know, what goes along at this time.
Well, it takes practice, actually. The first time I commanded a parade like this, the commanding officer at the time was sick, and therefore I wasn't quite clear exactly how it should be done. So the person, actually it was Captain Bramble at the time, and he was in the hospital, and the nurses said I couldn't see him. I said, no, what? Can't see him? I have a very, very important mission, and he'll be able to assist me. Without him, I wouldn't be able to undertake this mission. So they allowed me to, and he explained the outline of the parade to me, and I was able to successfully complete the mission.
You're referring to Captain Theodore Bramble?
Yeah,
Major
Bramble.
Eventually, yes, Major, yes. Well, I can say from you, you know, taking over from you a few years to myself, it's you know, you're giving all these orders and instructions with your back turned to the troops. So sometimes you have to make sure you pin it down and so on. But one of the things you always say to the troop, notwithstanding that I may make an error, you know exactly what should be done at what time. So please ensure that that is done.
In other words, what you have practiced and rehearsed would not be changed unless you are instructed to do so.
To do so, indeed.
In other words, you are given an order to turn right when you know it was to turn left. You continue as per trained.
Yes.
Right? The commander will catch himself, and of course will continue from there.
Right.
But you do not stop the parade because the commanding officer or the person who is conducting parade seem to make an error.
Right.
That officer will have to pay for it later on.
So they're now going down to the rear ranks of the Armed Guard. Governor, Her Excellency Sarah Tucker, and is being escorted by the parade commander, where he's explaining everything, followed by the ADC to the governor. Then we have the Premier with his ADC, Mr. Charles Thompson, and followed by the two senior commanders on island, Lieutenant Colonel Alvin Everton Ryan and Commissioner of Police Steve Foster. And they make up the inspecting party. They would have now completely inspected the number 4 unit, which is the cadet unit, so they stand at ease. They now would have finished the Royal Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force, so they stand at ease. As the process, you know, can be lengthy, bearing in mind she will be inspecting everyone on parade this morning. So she's now moving back to the auxiliary troops. We have a small unit from the Fire and Rescue Service and a unit from the Montserrat Prison Service. And the Brownies, I am so delighted to see them back on parade again. And I know they're working on getting some more senior persons in the guide unit also. It will be a struggle, but I think efforts should be made to get the Boy Scouts going again.
Yes.
And you know, based on how things go with the pandemic, we'll see the Boys Brigade and the Girls Brigade hopefully here next year. The Adventist Pathfinders have a very good presence here as well this morning. For this, we're happy. Its parade is on a Friday, so it doesn't really conflict with their Sabbath celebrations on a Saturday. So we're glad to see them here. And I hope this serves as an inspiration to get other organizations up and going.
Yeah.
We normally have the Red Cross First Aiders as well on parade, but they are on duty, carrying on manning the first aid station, should anybody require their assistance. And hopefully we expect to see them too, parading sometime in the future.
Yeah, I remember not so long ago, our good major here, Joseph Lynch, was heralding the discipline that comes from these organizations being a part of parades or events such as this. Some years ago, you know, we were talking about the Boy Scouts and the fact that they have not been here for a while, you know, and I remember Major distinctly saying during that time that, you know, he wished they would be able to come back, and some of the other absentees that you mentioned there a while ago, because, you know, the importance of these organizations and what these individuals can learn.
Well, one of the foremost thing in all of this is teamwork. Being able to do things, as you know, do something as part of a team. Being able to follow instructions, right, towards achieving a particular goal, whatever it may be. So even in sports, a sporting team, you know, you play together as a team with the object of winning that game. Being able to move together in unison on a military parade is always a sight to see. And you know, it's one of those traits that you can rely on throughout your entire life.
Yes,
being able to support whatever the objective is or the mission is to achieving a particular objective.
Major, we're going to bring you back in here to get your take.
Well, it's like flogging a dead horse, to be honest with you. The idea that you don't have the young boys as part of a scout movement anymore, because it's an area where you can start your training, your discipline that would serve you well later in life, you know. And I suppose the whole problem is leadership. It's difficult to find leaders who will be able to inspire the young people to follow a particular discipline, because, and it's probably will be more difficult even now with the social media and the time that young people spend on their phones, to take them away from that particular thing to an organization that take a lot of the time will take a lot of encouragement and inspiration.
Indeed. So Her Majesty just inspected the band, and normally for that part of the process the band would stop playing, and of course she would ask questions and make inquiries that she deemed, you know, necessary to make among each grouping that she would have inspected. So
no doubt she would have thanked the band for
most certainly, yes, for the performance this morning and last night. They were able to accompany Mr. McLeod White at, you know, at pretty short notice for his presentation. All right, so Her Excellency has now finished inspecting all the troops on parade. Now there's a crucial technicality that normally takes place here. When she now returns to the DS, the parade commander will thank her for inspecting the parade, and of course ask her, hope she finds everything in order and well. If she says yes, the troops, the armed guard is now referred to as Guard of Honor.
Guard of Honor.
Because the governor would have inspected them and approved them.
Right.
It's one of those technicalities. So let's hear Captain Fergus.
Found everything and everyone in order now. Hereby request your permission to continue the parade with the trooping of the flag and band, followed by march past in slow and quick time.
Right, so he has gotten permission, so you will now hear him refer to the troops as, you know, guard. It's one of those technicalities, but from a military point of view. So permission has been granted, so he's now going to prepare the troops for the next thing, and I think he said the next item is the trooping of the unit flags. So this is where we would normally have a precision drill.
Right. Okay,
but we were able to put together something. They were able to put together something, and this is what we refer to as the trooping of the flag. So the three armed units on Montserrat, their flags will be formally trooped, and you will see that how that is done.
Right.
And we pride ourselves on this, the fact that all our units are able to formally present their flags on parade. Okay, I will explain it as we go through. All right. So the preparation is now taking place. You would have heard he also said trooping of the flag along with the band. So the band is getting themselves into position now to accompany that part of the process. So the band is marching south, and then they're doing a wheel east, and they're now coming back towards the north. and to take up their position. And when they're in position, the flag party will also take up their position. There are just one or two quick points to note. You will see as it relates to the flag party. No officer in the flag party is allowed to, what we would say, turn the back to the flag. So they don't do let the regular troops right turn, about turn. They do wheels in a particular way. So because the flag that they're carrying must always be foremost. Yes. So you will see a bit as I'll explain it as we go along. So the band is coming right north to us here to take up their position, and then the officer in charge of the guard. It is only on this occasion that the parade warrant officer, sergeant major, can now draw his sword and parade with it. He's not a commissioned officer, so generally he's not allowed to draw his sword and carry it on parades. It's only for this type of activity where he's escorting the flags, or like a formal regiment will have this standard, right? But we say flags, and he's escorting them to make sure that they do it correctly, so he can't drop his sword on this occasion.
Other regiments, let's say the Royal Standard.
Or the regimental. Every regiment has the regimental standard issued by Her Majesty the Queen.
Right.
Right. We are not at that stage yet. Okay. So the trooping has begun. So we will see the flags going, have been trooped above the units, and the escorts are in the middle, and the band is playing them. And as the flags pass, the respective officer for that unit salutes in respect of the flag, the flags that are passing. And they're playing a well-known slow march tune that we know here. One that I think was a great, what should I say? I used to attribute it to Major Brown, because that's the only first time I hear it when he used to command the band back many years ago. But it's only since listening to international parades I have heard it played in the UK. Right, so this is the feature, one of the features of the parade today. The trooping of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force flag, the Royal Montserrat Police Service flag, and the Montserrat Secondary School flag. And they're making their way down the troops. And you will see them come around and then get themselves in another format as they present the flags to Her Excellency. Well, they march past Her Excellency with the flags.
And they'll be doing this in slow and
they are doing it in slow time. The march past now is a different story, where they'll do both again in slow time and quick time.
Okay.
And including all the children on parade will be looking forward to that. All right? So the standards have now passed through the troops and are going up to come down on what we call the baseline in front of Her Excellency.
How does this differ from the trooping of the colors that is? How does this differ from the trooping of the colors that we see for the large regiments?
Yes, it is pretty much the same thing, but we're not allowed to use the word colors. Because the troops here were not issued the colors by Her Majesty the Queen. You and I were in London in 1996 when our, what should I say, our brethren regiment, the Royal Irish Guards, received their colors. Tell us about that, Major Lynch.
Actually, they received new colors on the 24th of May 1996, for which I got an invitation, and Mr. White happened to be in London at the same time, yes. So he was able to get an additional
invite. You call him?
Yeah.
You call him Major?
No, what happened was the governor at the time was also in London, and he was supposed to attend the ceremony and didn't turn up.
Right.
Okay. So when Mr. White turned up there, they referred to him as
the governor.
The governor.
Okay, let's take a break a while. So formally, the flags are now at what we call now unfurled, or what they laid, passing the governor, receiving the salutes from Her Excellency the Governor, or recognition and salutes from all the senior officers there. This is an important photographic moment for the parade, and it's something that, you know, even as the person carrying the flag, you try your utmost not to make a mistake. Otherwise, if you do, that will last with you for a long time. Right. So, and now the band is now coming down doing their part by saluting Her Excellency the Governor. there's a sight to see here at Sailing Park. If you're not here in person, I can assure you, you're missing out on a great deal. Yeah, so back to that moment in London, when you know, it's one of those things I don't wish to speak to myself. But the invitation paper clearly would have said, coming to this event would have been the governor of Montserrat, the commanding officer of the Royal Montserrat, of the Montserrat Defence Force at the time, and an officer from the Montserrat Defence Force. I got my invitation delivered to me by a special service where I was in Crown Agents Training Centre in the south of England, something at the time. So, when I showed up, they're looking at the paper. Since Major Lynch at the time would have arrived before me and was in place, they said, obviously, this next person must be the governor of Montserrat. So, I was a bit taken aback with the special treatment. It's only when they put me in place and was giving me my recognition before they turned, they say, very well, Your Excellency the Governor. I said, no. That's when I realized that to explain to them who I was. But of course, they didn't greet me by name until they were actually put in my seat. Okay. So that's the way I get the chance to correct them.
Okay.
Right.
That's good. So Major seemed very enthused by what took place.
Yes.
It was a wonderful occasion, actually.
It was.
It took place at Windsor Castle.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's an area they call the Long Walk.
Yes.
I think it's about a mile long or something to that nature. And Mr. White had the good fortune of getting a taxi to take him there.
Yes.
And the guy said, listen, I live here for years and never able to drive up the Long Walk.
No taxi can go up that long walk. He didn't believe it.
Yeah.
He didn't believe it.
So he took him to this one and said, when you're ready to go back, call me. He didn't even charge him. So
yes, that's
correct.
correct.
It was the first time he was able to...
Very interesting.
Because the pass I had, I was told to put it to the windscreen. So when you reach because there's a public road across the Long Walk. So you're not able to turn on it. So when he reached that, I showed the pass. The guy ushered him up. He couldn't believe. So he thought he was going to land me there, and I walked the half mile up. And as we keep going up, we're passing different stations. And when I show my pass, they ushered me right up to the gate. Right. So he couldn't believe that. He could not believe that. And that was a sight to see. But I just want to mention that after the formal ceremony, Major Joseph Lynch and myself were in groups, and we were able to meet Her Majesty the Queen. I think that was my first and only chance to meet the Queen in person. But I'll tell you a little story there. So they arranged us in groups of over 6 or 7, and the Queen would come to groups and we'll speak. So I had the camera. So when Her Majesty goes to the group that Major Lynch was in, I would take his picture. And then she was going to leave that group to another one, and then I'll pass the camera to Major Lynch. So when she comes to my group now, I get a picture taken. Okay. It so happened she left from Major Lynch's group and come straight to mine. So I had the camera, couldn't take any picture of course of myself back in those days. So I don't have a personal photograph of that event. So there we just saw the trooping of the flag. The band has now taken up their position, strategic position, center parade square, and now preparing for the rest of the guard to carry out the next item for which Her Excellency the Governor gave permission, which is now the march past of the troops on parade. The armed guard will march past in slow time, and everyone on parade will march past in quick time. So, as soon as the band close off, Captain Fergus will now give you instructions.
Guard of honor will retire. About turn. Guard of honor will form close column of platoon. Change direction right at the halt. Right. Forward. Forward.
Now a form is given, you change direction without changing your formation. If you had given a right turn or a wheel, you would have changed both your direction and your formation. In the case of a form, you change your direction without changing your formation. You would have noticed that they come around in line as they were before.
Yes, so the parade for the march past will be done then, in the line, in the format. This is another opportunity where the sergeants on parade get a chance to make them out, make some noise and do the best of their ability by dressing their respective units and make sure they're straight. And the flag party will take up their rightful position in the center of the parade, where they too will participate in the march past. So the sergeants are dressing their respective platoons, making sure they're straight in preparation for this big event of them marching past Her Excellency the Governor in slow time. They need to be straight in perfect order on this particular part of the parade.
And the spacing should also be correct. It's normally 9 paces between platoons,
units, yes.
And it's very interesting. It takes a lot of practice and rehearsal to get them to keep that position. If not, at some stage you'll have what we call a crowding, a bundling of the of the platoon, which would destroy the whole smartness of the platoon. So the platoon sergeant and or the platoon officer, the platoon sergeant, who is normally at the middle of the platoon, tend to direct. Step short, step slowly, as the case might be, so that they'll be able to maintain their pace between the platoons.
Will march fast in slow and quick time at 15 paces interval. By the left, slow march.
So the parade commander has now instructed the armed guard to move forward in slow time, slow march, and he has given them adequate spacing to make sure that with the best of your practice, you could practice as much as you want. Sometimes, you know, to keep that spacing is always a challenge. However, we're glad to see the Antigua Police Band playing an appropriate Montserrat tune for the slow march. Hey, James? See, they're playing an appropriate Montserrat tune for the slow march. Yes. And this is also, you know, to inspire all of us around, in particular those on parade, to be able to do as much of the parade to the accompaniment of Montserrat original music. Yes.
Yeah, that's a lovely piece of music, Major. Oh, Montserrat.
That is correct. This was authored by Dr. Jackman and somebody else. Who it was?
Yes, I think he had a part to play with it. What if I'd known they were playing it, I probably would have researched it a bit more. Indeed, but
I think
it's a great
Lawyer Kenneth Allen as well. I think
yes,
you should have asked Sir Howard to help.
Yes, indeed. Okay, right. So the troops are now on the southern side of the grounds, and they are getting themselves formed to come down to march past Her Excellency and in line.
The leading platoon, which is the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, have now turned towards the north, still in line, and they're giving the following platoon a chance to catch up so that they won't be too far ahead.
Right, so the parade commander, Captain Fergus, would have taken his position in front. So the leading parade is Captain Fergus, then his 2IC, Captain Foster, and the person who's speaking and giving the instructions is the unit commander, Lieutenant Darrow. So everybody in that unit and those in front are following the instructions of Lieutenant Darrow. And there we see the officers giving the formal salute with their swords. That's something I always enjoyed to do many years ago when I was doing that as a young person. And they have now eyes right, looking in the direction of Her Excellency the Governor, who recognized them with a slight tilt of her head, acknowledging their salute to her. Coming up behind the Royal Montserrat Defence Force unit, we have the unit of the Montserrat Police Service, led by Inspector Matanaya Antoine. Right, and for the eyes right in slow time, they would have done that at the open order, so that they have space and to be able to see to the right and be easily acknowledged. So we see the police unit is now still doing the eyes right, and the flag party have now lowered the flag again while they pass Her Excellency the Governor, the Queen's loyal representative here on island. And this is where now the other persons on parade will be preparing themselves, because you know when this part of the parade turns into what we call the quick time, everybody else on parade will get a chance to march off. Yes, so the right, so we have number 3 unit a little bit behind, coming up now to pass Her Excellency the Governor, giving their eyes right. This, you know, of course, can be a little tricky when they come back on what we call the baseline, because that is when everybody needs to be on the baseline before the order to change pace is given to quick time. And we'll see that in a while.
Okay.
So it means some catching up will have to be done by those in front slowing down, and those coming up behind pick up the pace a little bit. I again say for those of us who are looking at this is really a sight to see. 2 years, well, the last time we see something like this was 2019. Yeah, yes, 19, because we didn't have any parade in 2020.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
and
you're right.
and 2021 last year was the truncated version.
Yes.
And so now, you know, it's seeing full troops up again, right? If you're worried, if you're looking at us on television and you're worried or you're inquiring about that item that is hovering overhead, it's one of the cameras that you're looking at. It's a drone camera that is also taking videos of the activity from above. So
we have to use
it's a good, yes, you're excited to see if you're looking at this on YouTube or online. Right, so we have the number 4 platoon, the cadet unit would have passed the governor now, and they are now all coming up to get back on the baseline. Yes, it's good. The fact that we were able to get the band into Montserrat and the unit from the Antigua Defense Force. Normally, you know, we rely on the ferry to bring, you know,
it
them down. Yes, it took some getting. Yes, and or sometimes we use our colleague from St. Kitts, their Coast Guard, which is a sizable boat, to do the rounds for us. But their boat, I think, is not in operation. Okay. So we had to do some, I would use the word gymnastics, to get using our local marine unit and some air transport to get them in on Wednesday and to do the relevant rehearsals. And if all goes well, that they can, you know, leave tomorrow as planned. So here we have all the parade now pretty much on the starting baseline, waiting for instructions now to change from the slow march that they're doing, and they will be changing to the quick march. If you see on the far end the other units on parade, the sun is striking hot. So we had 1 or 2 persons who had to take a little break, but one thing they do not want to miss out on is the part which is coming up next, which is the march past in quick time. So the parade on the baseline. Let's go over to Captain Fergus.
Parade will break from slow into quick time. Quick march!
And there we have the order. So the units will now march past Her Excellency again in quick time. And on this occasion, the auxiliary units, the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service, the Prison Service, the Girl Guides and Brownies, and the Adventist Pathfinders will do their part by marching in the marching past Her Excellency in quick time.
Okay.
Here we have the band now transition to another Montserrat tune.
That's an arrow.
Yes, it's
Montserrat nice.
and they're playing it with steel pan, and it sounds real nice.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking, they would have practiced these songs before, you know, so that they would
Yes,
be
oh yes.
so very well there. You know,
Indeed,
Antigua,
yes.
police band there.
They didn't leave it when they reach it.
No.
Yes. And here we have unit number 1, march past Eyes Right to Her Excellency the Governor in quick time. The parade commander is in front. His 2IC Captain Foster and Lieutenant Darrow giving the instructions. And coming up, following them is the unit number 2, led by Acting Inspector Matinaya Antoine, the police, Royal Montserrat Police Service. And there they are, march passing Her Excellency the Governor, who recognized them with a simple nod.
Now the troops have now changed back into file, so that by the time they reach the baseline, they would have been in the proper alignment.
Yes. Right. So they did that form, you know, for the purposes of the march past only.
Yes.
And then now they'll be back in file to get back to the baseline.
It's a beautiful parade, actually.
And
In spite of the numbers, I think it's just a wonderful sight to see.
Yeah.
You know, and it is more rewarding, especially when you see that they've put in some practice into it. You know,
Yes.
you don't see a lot of glitches and mistakes, so to speak. So, of course, parade take practice, and more practice.
And that's as I was saying to you, James, that, you know, with all of this to be done, and formal permission was only given in May.
Yeah.
I think about sometime after the first week in May, where a formal decision was made, okay, let's go ahead with this.
Yeah.
And that's when the troops can then start mobilizing their once or twice a week practice.
Right.
Bearing in mind, the Defense Force, you know, is not a full-time organization, so it's made up of persons who have their regular jobs. So they do that and then meet in the evenings for training and practice. So we have the Antigua Defense Force now coming on, and the Cadet Corps also turning into file, and will be coming on to take up the position on the baseline. The Fire and Rescue Service, we have 7 persons on parade, and they too are carrying their flag, the Fire and Rescue flag. We also have the Prison Service, and they too carrying the Prison Service flag on parade. So those are the other 2 organizations that actually have their flags with them, but they are not part of they were not part of the trooping of the unit flags this morning. That was done by the armed units. And coming up, making sure that everyone is accounted for, is the parade Warrant Officer 1, Barry Carlisle Williams, and he is ably assisted by a warrant officer who also came with the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force to help him to make sure that those are called on the second units on the second baseline are kept in order, and he's been doing a good job in that. Just make mention of those officers who are doing duties for the flag parties. We have Acting Sergeant Oswald West. He's carrying the ensign for the Royal Montserrat Defense Force. We had Police Constable Kevin St. Louis carry the ensign of the Royal Montserrat Police Service. We have Sean Greenaway, ensign for the Cadet Corps. And then the Sergeant and Davison Semper, Senior Guard to the ensigns. PC Leslie Lewis, Guard to the ensign. And Cadet Gerald, Guard to the ensigns. So, you know, they were able to come up with a role for as much persons as possible. But bearing in mind, in particular from the Cadet Corps, they were not able to get quite a lot of their members because they have exams at this time.
Yes.
Especially those in the college and those who are in 5th form in the secondary school. So, you know, it's you know, that, and then with the parade being brought forward literally by 2 weeks.
Yes.
It complicated things a bit. Yeah. Well, two Saturdays, I'll say. So normally the parade itself would be next week Saturday under normal circumstances.
This special week, the platinum.
Yes.
It ties in beautifully with this parade.
All right. So all the units and parade are back on what we call the baseline. So they're now going to get themselves sorted out, properly dressed and aligned to move on to the next part of this parade. Now, yes, the parade itself is a formal parade. The event is a formal event. So I don't want to use the word formal again now. For what we call the official part of the parade, where where we operate with the assumption that Her Majesty the Queen herself is here.
Is here, yeah.
And because she's not here physically, her royal standard will represent her. So even for that occasion, the governor does not stand on the dais.
Okay.
You will see that the troops are now preparing for that, and this is where we give the formal military cheer to Her Majesty the Queen on the occasion.
Okay.
And you will see as we go along. All right. So the troops are now dressing, making sure that everybody in their rightful place. So the next order from here will be the playing of the national anthem, where the royal standard Queen's flag will be unfurled, and the troops are preparing. So Her Excellency now comes down from the dais and stand at a position facing the royal standard, which will be unfurled in this next event.
Royal salute! Present! Arms!
And you notice the instruction is a royal salute, because Her Majesty's flag will be unfurled. And when that is done, all other flags are lowered, all, including the unit flags on parade. So the only flag flying here, official flag flying on Salem Park, is the Royal Standard. And this is an indication for us militarily that Her Majesty is now represented by her flag, and all is the focus of attention in this event. So the Guard of Honor is now preparing for the feu de joie, where the armed guard who have been assigned to do that will now unfix bayonets and prepare for that part of the parade, which is the discharging of 3 rounds in honor of the occasions.
Guard of Honor, officers, take post.
And because we're dealing with ammunition, blank ammunition, we need to give ourselves, the troops need to give themselves a bit more space. So they open much wider. And you'll see they do that.
Load. Present. Come in.
So there we have the first discharge of the round. And the first six bars of the national anthem is played within this period. And everyone, all guests, and those invited are standing. This is during this activity, as a mark of respect for the unfurling of the Royal Standard, everybody would stand.
Reload. Reset. Commence.
So there we have the 3 volleys being discharged. After the first one, we have the first 6 bars of the national anthem being played. After the second one, we have the second 6 bars. And after the third, the entire anthem is played over, all towards the tribute to Her Majesty the Queen.
Unload.
So the troops have now making safe their weapons that is just used by unloading and making sure they're safe, as they still have the rest of the parade to continue. So they have now,
Officers, take post.
they now revert to their original position by closing back the ranks to the standard open order, and they're replacing their bayonets and their weapons. All this is still the formal recognition for Her Majesty. As you see, all the other flags are still lowered, and the only flag that's flying at this time is the Royal Standard.
Right. Will remove.
Headdress.
Headdress. Remove. Headdress.
So all male officers on duty will remove their headdress as
Reach
part of this
to
process.
Her Majesty the Queen. Hip hip hip. Hip hip hip. Hip hip hip. They will replace headdress. Replace headdress.
A fine cheer to Her Majesty the Queen. On this, the 70th year of her reign as Queen of England, the realms, and the Commonwealth.
The parade will advance in review order. By the center. Quick march.
Troops will march forward 14 paces to take up a new position on the parade grounds to the accompaniment of the music.
Right. Shoulder. Arms. Royal salute. Present. Arms.
So we have the full national anthem again being played, and on this occasion, the Royal Standard is lowered gracefully. Should be down by the end of the playing, and then all the other flags on parade will again be raised. So you will see the Royal Standard is being lowered by the flag orderly, and then at the end of it, the Montserrat flag and the Union Jack will be unfurled, and the units on parade with flags will raise them again.
Guard of honor. Shoulder. Arms. Guard of honor. Order. Arms.
Okay.
Right. Standard. East.
Right, so that's the formal recognition of Her Majesty, and we're now getting to the awards of medals, and we will hear the names called. So we're hoping that, I think someone from the Governor's office will be reading the citations or the names for those whose names will be called. So are we over to that point, is it? Yes. The medals that will be awarded this time for service in the respective units, the annual awards to the defense members of the defense force, members of the police service.
Good morning. This now brings us to the medal ceremony for those officers deserving awards. We'll be awarding today long service medal, first class and second class for persons who completed 18 years, 25 years, and 30 years respectively. We will start with the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. A first-class efficiency medal decoration is awarded to Captain Captain H.T. Fergus. Joined the Royal Montserrat Defence Force on 17th April 2001. His service is twofold: 6 years as an enlisted member during the Cadet Company, Sergeant Major, having transferred to the Corps, and a further 9 years on 11th November 2015. His enlistment service is counted as half a year for the total of 12 years qualifying efficient service, and he is therefore awarded the Efficiency Decoration. He has completed a further 6 years of service on November 11th, 2021. Captain Fergus have completed a total of 18 years of qualifying service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force and is therefore awarded a first class to the Efficiency Decoration. Captain Fergus.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Would have had his medal, and what we are seeing here now is a bar being placed on his medal, indicating the further 6 years of service. And of course, if he stays on in another 6 years or so, he'll get another one. Right. You know, if you could see them here, pretty much like this. Right. And right. So that's how it's replicated. And of course, for recognition of service, we must always remember that service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force is voluntary.
Okay.
And free.
A class efficiency medal is also awarded to Acting Sergeant Oswald J. West, who joined the Royal Montserrat Defence Force on 27th February 2001 from the rank of the Montserrat School Cadet Corps. He was awarded Efficiency Medal having completed 12 years efficient service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force in 2012. He completed a further 6 years on the 23rd of June 2019. Acting Sergeant Oswald West has completed a total of 18 years qualifying service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force and is therefore awarded a first class to the Efficiency Medal. Acting Sergeant Oswald West.
Flag. So let's make sure we bring some clarity here. Captain Fergus would have got the class on his efficiency decoration.
Okay.
And that is what's given to commissioned officers. Okay. And you're entitled to carry the ED after your name, as provided for in law. The regular soldiers, or anyone below the rank of one officer, gets the efficiency medal for 12 years of service. So here's
Sergeant Calvin Lewis joined the Royal Montserrat Defence Force on 7th October 2004 from the rank of the Montserrat Secondary School Cadets. He has completed 12 years of qualifying service efficiency on 30th May 2015. He completed a further 6 years on 30th May 2021. Sergeant Calvin Lewis have completed a total of 18 years qualifying service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force and is therefore awarded a first class efficiency medal. Sergeant Calvin Lewis.
So, Major Lynch, did you have the decoration and the medal?
No, I've got the medal but no decoration.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Overlook for all of these.
Because the technicality is, if you did your 12 years before being promoted to an officer, you get the medal. Then, if you receive a Queen's Commission, then you start all over again. Yeah. You have to do 12 years as a commission officer to get the efficiency decoration. Right. So, knowing Major was a long-standing member,
that is what
I thought
I'm
probably
saying.
he would have had it too. Yes. All right, so we're now moving on to the police awards. That will be coming up next.
Lance Corporal Corey Cameron joined the Royal Montserrat Defence Force on 16th February 2010 from the ranks of the Montserrat Secondary School Cadet Corps. Yeah. He has completed 12 years of qualifying service on 16 June 2022 for a total of 12 years of qualifying service. Lance Corporal Corey Cameron is hereby awarded an efficiency medal. Corey Cameron.
Yes, so he's now getting his medal for 12 years of service in the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. And these are the sort of things that, you know, we really have to promote to encourage people to volunteer their time to serve in this organization. As you know, it's not just a club, it's an entity that could be called on to be activated, which, for example, during the COVID pandemic, the Defence Force has been activated a number of times to give support to the Royal Montserrat Police Service, especially during periods of lockdown or when we had curfews.
And now we are in the hurricane season.
Season coming up, yes. They must always stand ready. Yeah. And, within, I think, 3 times, I know, of the Defence Force being deployed overseas for humanitarian relief to other, regional islands.
Providing that support.
Indeed, indeed. So this is the sort of thing that they must be ready for and always train for.
I now move to the Royal Montserrat Police Service. A second class is awarded to Deputy Commissioner Charles Thompson. Charles Thompson, Deputy Commissioner of Police, is awarded a second class as a reward for his long service and good conduct in the Royal Montserrat Police Service. He was enlisted into the service on 1st January 1990. He is currently the Director of the Financial Crime Unit and Deputy Commissioner of Police. His last promotion was to the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police on 1st November 2014. He also served as the rank of Sergeant, Inspector, and Superintendent before attaining the rank of Deputy Commissioner. Deputy Commissioner Thompson is hereby awarded a second class for having completed 30 years of unbroken service to the Royal Montserrat Police Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Deputy Commissioner Charles Thompson.
So, in the case of the police now, you would have gotten their efficiency medal at 18 years, unlike the military, which is 12.
Yeah.
And then the class for every 6 years of service after that. So you would have gotten the for 18, and then the first one would have been
25.
At 25 and now 30. Yeah.
A second class is also awarded to Superintendent Albert C. Williams. Superintendent Williams is awarded a second class as a reward for his long service and good conduct in the Royal Montserrat Police Service. He was enlisted on the 18th of January 1990. His last promotion was to the rank of Superintendent on 1st February 2018. Mr. Williams served in the rank of Sergeant and Inspector before attaining his current post. Mr. Williams is a trained fingerprint and crime scene expert with local and regional demand. His current post covers the operational aspect of policing. Superintendent Williams is hereby awarded a second class for having completed 30 years of unbroken service to the Royal Montserrat Police Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Superintendent Albert Williams.
Right. So again, looking at the list of persons who actually...
A second class is also awarded to Inspector Julian Michael Wade. He was enlisted in the Royal Montserrat Police Service on 26 April 1990. He has served a total of 32 years. With the exception of the Financial Crime Unit, Mr. Wade has worked in all departments of the Royal Montserrat Police Service. Inspector Wade was attached to the Criminal Investigation Department for a period of 25 years. Inspector Wade is a senior crime scene specialist, a trainer, and is currently in charge of the HR unit. Inspector Julian Wade is now awarded a second class for completing 30 years of qualifying service. Inspector Julian Wade.
So the list of names of persons who served 30 years is really commendable in the Royal Montserrat Police Service, and of course there are those with over 30 years. So it's never.
Also awarded a second class in the Royal Montserrat Police Service is Sergeant Solomon Samuel. Solomon Samuel is a sergeant in the Royal Montserrat Police Service, having joined the service on the 25th June. He was promoted to the rank of sergeant on 1st January 2018. Sergeant Samuel is a trained crime scene specialist, a Marine officer, and is currently posted at the Marine unit as a captain of the Heliconia Star. Sergeant Samuel is hereby awarded a second class for having completed 30 years of qualifying service in the Montserrat Police Service and the Montserrat Public Service. Sergeant Solomon Samuel. First class is awarded to Sergeant Jessica Sweeney for good conduct and long service. She was enlisted in the Royal Montserrat Police Service on 2nd July 1996 and was promoted to the rank of sergeant on 1st October 2008. Sergeant Sweeney worked in various departments of the Royal Montserrat Police Service, including CID, Immigration, Marine, and is currently attached to the Financial Crime and Analysis Unit. Sergeant Jessica Sweeney is hereby awarded a first class for having completed 25 years of unbroken service in the Royal Montserrat Police Service and the Montserrat Public Service. Sergeant Jessica Sweeney. I now switch to long service medals. Acting Inspector Matanaya Antwine is awarded a long service medal as a reward for his long service and good conduct in the Montserrat Police Service. He was enlisted in the Royal Montserrat Police Service on 17 June 2003 and is currently the Acting Inspector in charge of CID, Scenes of Crime, and Court and Process. He was promoted to the rank of Sergeant on the 1st January. Acting Inspector Antwine is hereby issued with a Colonial Long Service Medal for having completed 18 years of unbroken qualifying service in the Royal Montserrat Police Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Acting Inspector Matanaya Antwine. Sergeant Ryan Darrow. Sergeant Ryan Darrow is awarded a Colonial Long Service Award for long service in the Royal Montserrat Police Service. He was enlisted into the service on 13 December 2003 and have worked in the CID department and is currently a captain on the Heliconia Star in the Marine Unit. He was promoted to the rank of Sergeant on 1st June 2021. Sergeant Ryan Darrow is hereby awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for having completed 18 years of unbroken service in the Royal Montserrat Police Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Sergeant Ryan Darrow. I now switch to the fire service. Fire Officer Desi Irish. Fire Officer Desi Irish is awarded a second class as a reward for long service and good conduct in the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Services. He was enlisted into the service on 16th January 1992. He is a trained aerodrome fire commander and a trained trainer, and is currently attached to the Braids Fire Station. Fire Officer Irish was promoted to the rank of Fire Officer on 4th June 2004. Fire Officer Irish is hereby issued with a second class for having completed 30 years of unbroken qualifying service to the Fire and Rescue Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Fire Officer Desi Irish. Long service within the Fire and Rescue Service. Acting Chief Fire Officer Kenrick Hackett. Kenrick Hackett, Acting Chief Fire Officer, is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal as a reward for his long service and good conduct in the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service. He was enlisted into the service on 9th January 2003 and was promoted to his substantive post of Deputy Chief Fire Officer on 1st November 2017. Acting Chief Fire Officer Hackett is hereby awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for having completed 18 years of qualifying service in the Royal Montserrat, in the Fire and Rescue Service and the Public Service of Montserrat. Acting Chief Fire Officer Kenrick Hackett. Vakel Marine, Acting Deputy Chief Fire Officer. Acting Deputy Chief Fire Officer Vakel Marine is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for good conduct and long service to the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service. He was enlisted into the fire service on 21st December 2001 and was promoted to the substantive post of Fire Officer on 1st February 2008. Mr. Moraine has acted in various capacities over the past 5 years to include Chief Fire Officer and Deputy Chief Fire Officer. Mr. Moraine is now awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for good conduct for completing 18 years of qualifying service. Mr. Vakel Moraine, Acting Deputy Chief. Devon Lewis. Mr. Devon Lewis of the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for having completed 18 years of qualifying service. Mr. Lewis is currently attached to the J.A. Osborne Airport and is an aerodrome crew commander. Mr. Lewis is therefore awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for 18 years of qualifying service. Devon Lewis. Sylvana Malone. Sylvana Malone is a fire officer in the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service and is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for having completed 18 years of qualifying service. She joined the Fire and Rescue Service on 17 December 2001. A Long Service Award medal is awarded to Miss Sylvana Malone. Sylvana Malone. Firefighter James Adams. Firefighter James Adams is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for having done 18 qualifying years in the Montserrat Fire and Rescue Service, having joined the service on 15th May 2001. Firefighter Adams have 18 years of qualifying service and is awarded a Colonial Long Service Medal for 18 years. Firefighter Adams. We'll now switch to the prison department. Vaughn Terrence Ryan was enlisted as a prison officer on 21st May 1997. He was later promoted to senior prison officer on September 1st, 2009. Mr. Ryan now holds the rank of function head after the position of senior prison officer was upgraded on 21st August 2001. During his tenure, Mr. Ryan attended several overseas training and attachment in Anguilla, UK, Jamaica, and Turks and Caicos. Today, he is awarded a first class for completing 25 years of qualifying service to the prison service and the public service of Montserrat. Prison Officer Vaughn Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the awards ceremony for this morning. However, we'll await Mr. Vaughn Ryan to come in and collect his award.
So that's, there we have the medals ceremony and award. On this occasion, citation for everyone was read so that the public would have an appreciation of the service, that would have been done by each person who have received that award. Yes, it's added a few minutes to us still being here, but it is correct that everyone is clear as to why someone would have received such an award and the level of service they would have provided respectively. We hope this serves as a encouragement to others, to join the prison service, the fire service, the police service, the cadet corps, or the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, and provide service to the nation in that way. So that's the what should I say, the formal awards, separate from the Jubilee medals, that were issued to persons who would have served 5 years or more in the police service, the defense force, the fire and rescue service, and the prison service. Those medal ceremonies would have taken place sometime before, and I think they had three events where that took place. I think they took place on in May, between the 15th and the 25th of May, and I think they may even wish to put on one sometime for those persons who were confined because of COVID. So we now have the closing. Right, so then we have what we call the departing salute for Her Excellency the Governor. We just saw the present arms for her and the 6 bars of the national anthem being played. So that brings Her Excellency will now approach the parade commander to give him her personal thanks for the troops. And I think after this parade, she would gather with them at the agreed point, probably at the Salem police station, where she will also address the troops personally and do the formal process of raising the loyal toast. So that brings to the end, should I say, the formal aspects of the parade. Her Excellency is now moving towards the canopy, where she would say, greet all those invited guests who are sitting there. The Premier, the Ministers of Government, the Deputy Governor, the Speaker of the House, and others who are seated under the canopy where what we call the dignitaries are so seated. Right, so back to you now, Major Lynch. We would have seen the main aspects of the parade. What are your thoughts?
As I've said earlier, it's a wonderful parade in spite of the numbers. Long ago we were able to field 2 platoons of defense force, sometimes 2 platoons of the Royal Montserrat Service, and a larger contingent from the secondary school cadet corps. But notwithstanding numbers, I think we had a wonderful turnout today, and I must say kudos to the Antigua police band who have given us support over these years. It is my hope that very soon we'll be able to have our own marching band. It don't have to be all military, as Captain White alluded to earlier on. It was the effort that was started earlier and was intended to be a community band. That is, anyone with interest in music were free to come and join and be part of such a venture. It is not possible to march properly on grass without music. It's virtually impossible to march over grass without music. So without the band, it would not have been possible for us to have the parade that we have experienced today. So thanks again to the Antigua Police Band that given us the service today.
Notwithstanding Captain White, we have the Antigua Police Force Band providing the musical accompaniment. What are the prospects for our own community marching band?
Well, as I said, the process has started. Some instruments were acquired and training started in the Deville Community Center. I think we had about over 20-something persons participating.
I know that we've started.
But the issue is to with COVID and so on, how to get it started again, or go around to the youth groups, get persons interested, and be have them willingly present themselves. We had a team of persons who were doing the instructions. I think the jetman who was here for the music program. There was there's a gentleman who was working here, his name just evades me, and Mr. Herman Francis were also assisting in getting that program going. again, the issue is not to turn it into a full military band and so on, but to make sure that it's involves as much persons in the community as possible. Of course, if you're playing for parades, you have to be able to march, but that's as much as the intention was at the time. So the crown vehicle, as we call it, is now pulling up, where we will see the departure of Her Excellency the Governor. She's now saying and greeting those in the public as well. She's new to Montserrat. She's been on Montserrat, I think, for about 2 months.
Roughly.
Yes. So it's a first parade of this nature. So it takes a while getting accustomed to and greeting those in the public as well. So making her way to her vehicle, and then when she leaves, the Union Jack will be lowered when she's off the field, and then we will also have the departure of the Honorable Premier. All right, but so back to you, Major Joseph Gabriel Lynch. I was able to research, and I see you, being able to conduct the parades, quite a number of ceremonial parades. I observe you being the one leading the parade and the Guard of Honor for the visit of His Royal Highness, the Queen's husband, back in 1994 on Marine Drive. Huh?
That is correct. I think actually at that time we actually had a reception aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia,
yes,
in which he said that you look different now
yes,
than you were this morning.
This morning,
yeah, right.
Yes. And then I see another photo with you, with I think it was Princess Margaret, visit in 1987, I think it was. You again leading the Guard of Honor on Marine Drive. Myself there as the officer in charge of the cadet unit at that time. But pretty much when we have these visits, we really form a Guard of Honor on Marine Drive.
Yeah, that's just because most often than not they come
by sea.
By sea.
Yes.
So therefore it was
yes,
usual and natural. You have to have the parade immediately that they emerge from the.
Okay, here we have the departure now of the Premier. The formal salute is granted to him, and we have the music being played, territorial song.
My first ceremonial parade of this nature with Queen's birthday I was at the rank of lieutenant at that time, and they promoted me to acting captain for that period because you could not command the post if they had more than 96 persons.
Okay.
For that particular parade, I was promoted to captain for that parade.
What year was that?
I can't remember, but I know Major Bramble was sick in the hospital, and I had to take the parade at very last notice.
But I'm not finished with you. I noticed even at the start of the crisis, 1997, when we had Prince Andrew visited Montserrat. We see you greeting him at the airport, but in particular, right here at Salem Park, you commanded that parade.
Yes,
there was one notable issue with that. He brought with him an instrument from Her Majesty the Queen.
Yeah, that bestowed royalty and the Montserrat Defence Force.
Oh,
that's correct.
Which was a good little thing when we could ask him, Your Royal Highness, which bank can I take this to? He said, I'm sorry, but he's not negotiable at any bank.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So he said from thereafter, the instrument would have said, the Montserrat Defence Force is to be known and hereafter known as the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. And I don't even think an act of Parliament could change that.
No, it had to be done from within.
It's an instrument from Her Majesty directly.
We have to go right back there.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, but I'm still not giving up on you, Major Lynch. I know you, apart from the occasion where you spoke when you were in England, where the Irish Guards got their colours and so on, you were in the UK on another occasion when you met Her Majesty the Queen's mother. Tell us about that.
Actually, that was 1995. It's funny, the defense advisor at that time said that I should not be promoted to major until I would have done the company commander's course.
Yes.
So I was attached to do this Territorial Army company commander's course and at Warminster. And of course, we are the little brother for the 1st Battalion Irish Guards. So they accommodated me for the period before the course started. And it was during St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yes.
And you know, because it's Irish Guard, it was a big thing for that particular regiment. And that is when I met Her Majesty the Queen's mother, when shamrocks were given out to the troops. You wouldn't notice this is a borrowed suit, because nobody told me that I had to carry my uniform from here. All I had was my beret. I didn't have anything else to suit.
Right.
But they loaned me an officer's suit, and of course they're very particular how it fits. So the master tailor had to do tuck here and tuck there and so on to make sure that it fit me proper. And then they instructed me, when if Her Majesty asks you whose uniform is this, you simply say, my unit, Your Royal Highness.
Very well.
But they didn't ask me, so I didn't have to lie.
And but what we have is evidence, a photograph of you receiving your shamrock from her.
That is correct, on the 17th of March, 1995.
And you have the picture framed. Do you have the shamrock framed as well, too?
No, I didn't. Actually, that picture the governor gave me that as a present.
Indeed. Okay. Very well. So, and I'm sure the others that we don't have, that you would have participated in. But I want to prick your brain. During our radio commentary last week, Friday, we were speaking about a royal visit in 1960. And then the Queen coming in 1966. I know you were an enlisted member of the Montserrat Defence Force in 1966. And that's the same year when we had the fire that destroyed Plymouth and the Montserrat Defence Force headquarters. Just give us a few points as to how you were able to manage that. Well, how we were able to manage on that occasion.
Unfortunately, I was away studying, so I didn't have to participate in that at all. Neither the George Street fire nor Her Majesty's visit.
However, but the fact that we had a ceremonial parade, we would have lost most of our equipment and so on at that time. So what